I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to Jersey Matters. As we approach the 2016 election, we will be introducing you to the candidates, including Lorna Phillipson, who is a candidate for the 4th Congressional District. And 4th Congressional District is Mercer, Monmouth, Ocean counties, a lot of Monmouth County, right?
Correct.
That's what we have. And you're going up against an entrenched Republican in Chris Smith. He's been there for 18 terms.
That's correct.
How do you beat Chris Smith?
Chris Smith went to Washington, Mr. Smith went to Washington many decades ago, and he, like Governor Christie, doesn't come home very often. I think he's out of touch with what his constituency wants. He very rarely comes back to talk to them. He sits in Washington and he decides what his district wants, not the other way around. So as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about an entrenched politician who has decided, like the father from the 50s, you will do what I say because I'm the dad. And he comes out and he says, I'm for this, I'm for that, but honestly, in many ways, he's betrayed us. And I want to show that in the coming months, as my campaign opens up, where he has not honored his promises, and why it's time, after all these decades, to give it up and go home. And his home is actually Virginia, because he does not come here.
And that's good, but you understand what you're up against.
Absolutely. I understand.
I looked under the Democratic website, the DNC and the RNC. They consider this a safe seat.
They also are looking at Steve Garrett's district up north with Gottheimer. And if you look at much of the media that comes out about that, they put Garrett and Smith together as the most misogynist in the state.
Really?
Yes.
And why?
And they're often written up together. Steve, you know, Garrett and Smith, Garrett and Smith, Garrett and Smith, and they've
just to make sure you're the most misogynistic in the state.
Yes, they're very. Yes, I believe so.
And how do you qualify that?
Once again, he is imposing his beliefs, his religious beliefs on the people.
Is this all abortion we're talking about?
Not entirely, no. I mean, it's the LGBT community as well. They don't believe that they deserve any equal rights. And it's not just the abortion issue, there's other things. Chris has put through legislation, anti-contraception. He doesn't, when I talk about going back to the 50s, he wants to introduce no contraception. He wants to ban it. He thinks we should go back to the 50s barefoot pregnant in the kitchen. I'm not ready to do that. And most people I know, including Republican women and men, are not ready to do that. I can see me going home, you know, a woman going home to her husband and saying, not tonight, dear, I have that aspirin between my knees because we're not having any contraception in this house. And that's what he wants. Now for me, if you're talking about the abortion issue, what woman wakes up in the morning and says, oh, goody, lucky today, I'm going off to get an abortion? Not one, not a single woman will say that. They're always going to say, this is not what I want. If I had known better, if I'd been educated, if I had access to affordable, effective contraception, maybe I wouldn't be in this case, and we could get to the zero.
Let's talk about your position on abortion.
So it's not so much even the abortion issue to me, because...
Well, but let's talk about that right now. Your position on abortion, there's no exceptions for getting an abortion?
I would like to have 0 abortions, but the only way we're going to get it is through contraception and education.
How about partial birth abortion?
I would prefer not to, but it's the sort of thing that at certain stages in a woman's pregnancy, it may be necessary, and that's between the woman.
So you want to keep partial birth abortion legal?
If necessary, yes.
And funding for Planned Parenthood?
Absolutely, because it's Planned Parenthood, it's like 3% of that budget goes to that. Everything else is health care, screening for cancer, and contraception.
You don't believe none of the money has been used for abortion?
Very little.
Very little, but none of it's supposed to be?
Not public money, no. Right. And that's written into all the laws that they have. It hasn't been for quite a while. So none of your taxes has gone to that.
So you'll have a stark difference with him. Are you, because the presidential election will have a profound effect on congressional elections, are you supporting one of the Democratic candidates? We
have 2 brilliant candidates. As far as I'm concerned, either one would be excellent, as opposed to the folks in the other party. My preference obviously would be for Hillary. She has a huge background as Secretary of State, and she's aware of things in Congress. She's aware of how it goes in Washington as First Lady, and I believe she would be very good. Bernie is brilliant too. He's got some great ideas. Some of it will filter down, and I think it will affect party politics in the next few years.
Does having a woman at the top of the ticket help other women that are running for office?
I don't think it makes a difference. Honestly, I don't. Because for me, I work with the Ginsburg on the Supreme Court came out and someone said, you know, when will you be happy when we have more women on the Supreme Court? She said, you know, I think we should have 9. And everybody says, you know, how can you do that? Well, we've had 9 men all this time. Why can't we have 9 women?
No, I understand. But let me explain the comment. And I'm not saying just because, oh, it's a woman, let's vote in for all women. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when she runs, she's going to make women's issues and the war on women, she'll be using that term, as part of her platform. And it sounds like that's part of your platform. So if she's making your case for you, you will be able to differentiate yourself more from Chris Smith.
Yes. But my platform is really more based on economics. My background is finance and economics, banking and finance. That's what I did for decades. So for me, when you talk about economic policy and how it's failed the middle class and why we have been worried about debt when we've had 14 years of war and we're paying for the classic economic situation of guns versus butter. Military might, strength, and economic prosperity for the people. We've been putting a lot of money in here and we're not doing it here. So there's a dichotomy that we have to fix to repair a lot of the issues that people need. We've been paying our taxes, it's just not being allocated in the right direction. Smith says he's for veterans, he wants to help Veterans Affairs. He's voted down many bills to give them money into their pocket. He says he's for seniors, but when it comes to anything to have to do with Social Security, he's going to side with the Republican Party. Let's get rid of Social Security. Talking about unions, the unions seem to love him, and I don't know why, because the Republican Party is so convinced they have to break up.
Let me tell you why they might love him. I'll tell you why they might. Because he's been there for 36 years and 18 terms.
Exactly.
And because he has, he can bring projects in. And everybody that runs against an entrenched congressman or woman has this problem in that they have power that you would not have when you got into office. And so they're thinking, uh-oh, we're going to lose this gravy train, including projects that would help the unions. How do you fight that?
I think I have to review more of his projects that he's brought in. I know he came up for the first time in a year to Spring Lake to the Rec Pond project. That's been in the works for several years. And that's probably the first time I've seen him in the past year in the area. And the projects, yes, we've had a lot of projects, but a lot of them have had to do with Sandy, honestly, which he had nothing to do with, obviously. I mean, he didn't cause Sandy.
He didn't fight for Sandy funding?
I'm sure he did, but he also voted down the 9/11 money for the workers from that. So a lot of people think that he's doing such great stuff, but I have found a lot of things in his recent voting records that are scary, where I really feel he's betrayed.
Real quickly, you talked about, and we haven't gotten into this, you talked about that your forte will be economics and business development. Correct. What is your background?
My background is banking and finance. I worked on Wall Street for 17 years, and then I was involved in Silicon Valley, dealing with startups and CEOs out there on technology and building their companies, hiring the right staff, and moving forward and getting financing for them. So that is also what I'm doing to a degree here in New York City, talking to some small entrepreneurs here as well. But for the past year, you know, I was working on the Assembly campaign, and now I'm working on this campaign going forward. So I've pulled back substantially from that. But I also taught at NYU in banking and finance.
Ms. Phillipson, thank you so much. Good luck to you. I appreciate the time. Lorna Phillipson, Democratic candidate for the 4th Congressional District. When we come back, there's a guy who is really fighting windmills, trying to get the movie industry to come here to New Jersey, specifically Ocean County, even though he doesn't have a lot of support from Trenton.